Hey everyone, welcome back to our podcast. Today we're tackling a topic that's been on a lot of minds lately, the fading promise of the American dream.
Yeah, it's a conversation that's becoming more and more important. So, what's sparking all this concern?
Well, it's like people are feeling the pinch from all sides, you know? Rising costs, stagnant wages. It's tough out there.
Right. I mean, just the other day someone was saying they spent over $1,000 in a few hours on basic car repairs and bills.
Exactly, and it's not like they're splurging on luxury items, it's basic necessities.
Mm-hmm. And it's not just one person feeling this way. It's a widespread issue. Hundreds?
Yeah, and still couldn't find work. It's like the system's broken.
That's incredibly disheartening.
It really is. And then there's the cost of living. Groceries, rent, healthcare, all skyrocketing.
You know, some people are even considering leaving the country to find a better quality of life.
Yeah, I saw that. Moving abroad because it's just too expensive here.
That's a huge decision to make.
It is, and it speaks volumes about the situation. People feel they can't achieve their dreams here anymore.
Right. The traditional American dream seems out of reach for many.
And it's not just young people. Even those making six figures are living paycheck to paycheck.
Wait, even with that income?
Yeah, it's shocking but true. The expenses just keep piling up.
That's a real eye-opener.
And let's not forget about healthcare costs. One family's medical emergency ended up costing nearly $1 million.
$1 million? That's unbelievable.
It is. They had to sell their farm just to cover the bills. It's heartbreaking.
Right? It seems like the system isn't designed to support people when they need it most.
Exactly. And people are questioning why basic necessities are so expensive in such a wealthy country.
Yeah, it's like the wealth isn't distributed in a way that benefits society as a whole.
Precisely. The gap between the rich and everyone else is widening.
You know, some folks argue that the American dream was always a bit of a myth.
True, but I think the difference now is that more people are recognizing it, and they're frustrated.
Definitely. It's leading to a lot of stress and mental health struggles.
Yeah, people are breaking down because they feel trapped with no way out.
It's a vicious cycle.
And it's affecting families too. Parents working multiple jobs just to keep a roof over their heads.
Right. And even then, they're missing out on valuable time with their kids.
Exactly. Quality of life is taking a hit.
So, what's the solution here?
Well, some suggest systemic changes, like addressing wage stagnation and the high cost of healthcare.
Yeah, but those changes take time. What can individuals do now?
It's tough. Some people are picking up side gigs or exploring remote work opportunities.
Right, diversifying income streams?
Exactly, but even that's not always enough.
Yeah, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a deep wound.
Well said. The underlying issues need to be addressed.
Agreed. But it requires collective effort and policy changes.
Definitely. And until then, people are just trying to stay afloat.
It's a challenging time, no doubt.
You know, it's important we keep talking about this. Bringing awareness is the first step.
Absolutely. People need to know they're not alone in this struggle.
Right, and maybe, just maybe, we can push for change together.
Here's hoping.
Yeah, it's like we need a new definition of the American dream.
One that's attainable and inclusive.
Exactly.
Well, this has been a really enlightening discussion.
It has. Thanks for diving into this topic with me.
Anytime. And thanks to our listeners for joining us.
Yes, we appreciate you all. Until next time, take care and stay hopeful.
Bye, everyone. You know, I've been thinking a lot lately about how the concept of the American dream seems to be slipping away for so many people.
Yeah, it's really alarming. What's making you feel that way?
Well, I came across these stories of people just struggling to make ends meet, even when
Right.
they're working full-time jobs that, used to provide comfortable lives.
That's tough. Do you have any specific examples?
Yeah. Like there's this woman who spent $600 on brakes for her
Oh,
car.
wow.
Then another $500 on her car payment. And she was just overwhelmed. It's like you work and work. And for what?
I know the feeling. It's like throwing money into a black hole.
Exactly. And another person bought 10 items at the grocery store, and it cost her $80. She had only $10 left in her account.
That's just crazy. Groceries shouldn't break the bank.
No, they shouldn't. It's like basic living expenses have become luxury items, and it's crushing
Right.
people's spirits.
You know, sometimes I wonder, is it just poor budgeting or is the system really that messed up?
Well, when even people making six figures are struggling, I think
Seriously?
it's more than just budgeting.
Wait, people making over $100,000 are living paycheck to paycheck?
Yeah, 1 in 5, actually. It's mind-boggling.
That's alarming to say the least.
It is. It's like the goalposts keep moving further away.
Exactly.
And no matter how fast you run, you can't catch up.
Makes you wonder what the solution is.
Well, some people are choosing to leave the country altogether.
Really? Like, where are they going?
Places like Thailand, Vietnam, even Eastern Europe, anywhere the cost of living is lower and quality of life is better.
Huh, I never thought about that.
Yeah, one person said the new American dream is to leave.
That's a bit drastic, don't you think?
Maybe, but when you're drowning, you look for any lifeline.
True, but what about family, community? Uprooting your life isn't easy.
No, it's not. But for some, staying feels like a slow death.
I guess desperation can drive big decisions.
Exactly. It's like being stuck in quicksand. The more you struggle,
the deeper you sink. That's a vivid image. But doesn't every country have its problems?
Sure. But some offer better safety
I
nets
see.
like affordable healthcare, education, reasonable housing costs.
But isn't the grass always greener on the other side?
Perhaps. But when your own lawn is scorched earth,
True.
any green looks appealing.
Fair point. But I still think there's merit in trying to fix the issues here.
Definitely. But it's going to take collective effort and policy changes.
You mentioned healthcare costs earlier. That story about the family with the premature baby was shocking.
Yeah, $900,000 in medical bills. They had to sell their farm to pay for it.
That's heartbreaking. No one should have to choose between their child's life and their livelihood.
Exactly. It's like the system punishes people for circumstances beyond their control.
But, some might argue that personal responsibility plays a role.
It does to an extent. But
Right.
when the odds are stacked against you, hard work isn't always enough.
I get that, but isn't that defeatist thinking? Shouldn't we encourage people to keep striving?
Of course. But we also need to acknowledge systemic issues that make it nearly impossible for some to get ahead.
Okay, I see where you're coming from. So what steps can we take?
Well, some are turning to alternative income streams, like starting
That's
online
interesting.
businesses or freelancing.
But is that sustainable for everyone? Not everyone's cut out for entrepreneurship.
True, but diversifying income can provide some cushion.
Makes sense.
And it's about adapting to new economic landscapes.
So maybe the American dream is evolving, not disappearing.
Exactly. It's shifting from the traditional model to something more flexible.
I can get behind that. But we still need systemic changes to support people.
Absolutely. Policy reforms, wage increases, better social services.
Do you think we'll see those changes soon?
I hope so. With enough awareness and collective
Yeah.
action, we can push for progress.
Well, here's to hoping. In the meantime, we need to keep the conversations going.
Definitely. After all, change starts with dialogue
Absolutely.
and action follows.
Couldn't agree more. Let's keep pushing forward.
Have you noticed how everyone's talking about how expensive life's getting these days? Oh, absolutely. It's like you can't even walk into a grocery store without blowing $100 on, 10 items? Exactly. I mean, I went shopping yesterday, bought just the basics, and it was $80. Seriously? Yeah. And I only had like 10 things in my cart. That's insane. Remember when you could fill up the cart without emptying your wallet? Right? And it's not just groceries. Rent, utilities, even car repairs are through the roof. Tell me about it. My friend just spent over $1,000 on her car, and that's not even for anything fancy. Exactly. It's like you work and work and work, and all your money just goes to basic necessities. There's nothing left for, enjoying life. Yeah, and it's so overwhelming. People are struggling just to keep afloat. And what's worse, public transportation isn't even a viable option in many places. Right. It's like we're stuck in this cycle. I was thinking about that the other day. If you don't have a car, it's nearly impossible to get around in some cities. Exactly. And the cost of owning a car is just adding to the burden. Insurance, gas, maintenance, it's all piling up. It's exhausting. And let's not even get started on housing prices. Trying to buy a home these days feels like a distant dream. Oh, tell me about it. In some cities, a modest house costs over $1 million. That's unreal. Who can afford that? Seriously, it's like the goalposts keep moving further away. Yeah. And wages aren't keeping up with inflation. People are making more on paper, but it's not matching the rise in living costs. Exactly. We're running a race where the finish line keeps getting moved. It's frustrating. And student loans? Don't even get me started on that. Graduates are burdened with debt that takes decades to repay, right? It's like starting life in a hole you can never climb out of. It makes you wonder, what's the point? People are questioning whether the American dream is even achievable anymore. Yeah, it's like the dream has shifted. Now it's just about trying to get by, not thrive. Exactly. And some people are even considering leaving the country to find a better life elsewhere. Really? Yeah. Places with a lower cost of living. I mean, I get it. But is that really the solution? Well, for some, it seems like the only option. When you're constantly struggling here, the idea of starting fresh somewhere else is appealing, I suppose. But I feel like we should be working to make things better here. You know? Yeah? We shouldn't have to leave to live comfortably. That's a fair point. It's just frustrating when you see the disparity growing. The rich get richer, and everyone else is left behind. Absolutely. Wage stagnation is a real issue. People are working harder than ever and not seeing the benefits. And the cost of healthcare is just absurd. One medical emergency can financially ruin a family. How is anyone supposed to plan for that? Yeah. I heard about a farmer who had to sell his second farm because his baby was born prematurely, and the medical bills were almost $1 million. That's heartbreaking. No one should have to choose between their livelihood and their child's life. Exactly. It's stories like that which make you question where we're headed as a country. And it's not just isolated cases. So many people are one emergency away from financial disaster. Yeah, and mental health takes a hit too. The stress and anxiety of just trying to survive can be overwhelming. Definitely. It's like we're all just treading water, hoping we don't sink. It's not sustainable. So, what do we do? How do we fix this? I wish I had a simple answer. Yeah, maybe it starts with acknowledging that there's a problem and working collectively to address issues like wage stagnation and healthcare costs. I agree. And perhaps supporting policies that aim to bridge the gap between the wealthy and everyone else. Exactly. It's about creating opportunities and making the American dream attainable again. You know, sometimes I wonder if we're romanticizing the past too much. Was the American dream ever truly accessible to everyone? That's a good point. Maybe it's always been a bit of a myth for many people. Perhaps, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't strive to make things better now. Absolutely. We can acknowledge past shortcomings while working towards a more equitable future. Yeah, and maybe it's like we need a new dream, one that's based on reality and inclusivity. I like that idea. A dream where everyone has access to basic necessities without struggling constantly. Exactly. Where working hard actually leads to a better quality of life. Right. Isn't that what it's supposed to be about? It sure is. Well, here's hoping we can get there sooner rather than later. Agreed. In the meantime, we can keep these conversations going and support one another. Definitely. And maybe, just maybe, we'll start to see some positive changes. Let's hope so. Yeah, after all, we all deserve a chance at a fulfilling life.
You know, I've been thinking a lot lately about how the cost of living just keeps skyrocketing. It's like no matter how hard you work, you just can't get ahead.
Totally. I mean, did you see those stories about people spending over $1,000 just on car repairs and payments in a single day? Right.
Exactly. And it's not like they're splurging on luxuries. It's basic necessities, you know? Just keeping a car running so they can get to work.
It's insane. And then there's the cost of groceries.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned spending $80 on just 10 items. That's crazy.
I know. And after bills and expenses, they've got like $10 left in their account. How are people supposed to live like that?
It's like the American dream is slipping away for so many.
Yeah.
Remember when working hard meant you could at least get by comfortably?
Exactly. Now even those making six figures are living paycheck to paycheck. It's not just affecting low-income families anymore.
And the student loan debt is staggering.
Oh, absolutely.
Young adults starting their lives already buried under tens of thousands in debt.
And let's not forget about healthcare costs. Even with insurance, medical emergencies can financially devastate a family.
It's heartbreaking. Like that story about the farmer who had to sell his second farm because his premature baby's hospital bill was almost $1 million.
Exactly. That's just gut-wrenching. No one should have to choose between their child's life and their livelihood, right?
It makes you wonder, where did we go wrong?
I know.
How did we get to a point where basic living becomes a luxury?
It's like we're all on this treadmill, running faster and faster, but getting nowhere.
Yeah.
Wages aren't keeping up with inflation at all.
And then there's the pressure of social media.
Oh, tell me about it.
Seeing others living lavish lifestyles while you're struggling adds salt to the wound.
Exactly. It's like everyone's portraying this perfect life, but in reality, most are barely scraping by.
You know, some people are even considering leaving the country to find a better quality of life. Places where the cost of living isn't so overwhelming.
I've heard about that. Countries where healthcare, childcare, and education are more accessible and affordable. Right.
But should leaving really be the solution?
Well,
shouldn't we strive to make things better here?
Ideally, yes. But when the system feels so stacked against you, it's understandable why people consider it.
I guess so. It just feels like giving up sometimes.
I get that.
But people have to do what's best for their families.
Absolutely. And the mental toll it takes is immense. Stress, depression, feeling hopeless, it's affecting so many.
Like the woman who broke down because she couldn't see a way out of her situation.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking to hear those stories.
It really is. And it's not just about money. It's about quality of life, mental health, the future we're leaving for the next generation, right?
Speaking of the next generation, kids today are facing challenges we never imagined.
Exactly.
Massive student loans, unaffordable housing, job market instability.
And even when they do everything right, go to college, get degrees, work hard, they're still struggling. Yeah.
It's like the old formula doesn't work anymore. The rules have changed, but no one told us.
So true. And while we chase this elusive American dream, we're missing out on actually living.
That's a powerful point. Maybe it's time to redefine what success looks like. Focus on well-being over wealth.
But then again, financial stability is critical for well-being.
It is.
Without it, stress and anxiety take over.
So what's the solution? Do we push for policy changes? Seek better social support systems?
Well,
maybe all of the above.
I think it starts with awareness. Acknowledging there's a problem is the first step to fixing it.
Agreed. And having open conversations like this can spark change.
Exactly.
People need to know they're not alone in this struggle.
You know, sometimes I wonder if technology could offer some solutions.
How so? Well, with remote work opportunities, digital businesses, maybe people can find new ways to generate income. That's a thought.
Yeah, but then not everyone has access or the skills for that.
True.
There's a digital divide we can't ignore.
So, perhaps education is key. Investing in skill development for the modern economy. But that requires time and resources people might not have.
It's a complex issue, isn't it? No one size fits all solution.
Maybe we need a cultural shift.
What do you mean? Like redefining what success and happiness mean.
Yeah.
Moving away from materialism and focusing on community and well-being.
That's a noble idea, but bills still need to be paid.
Exactly.
It's a balancing act.
At the end of the day, people shouldn't have to choose between feeding their family and enjoying life. Basic needs should be met.
It's frustrating. We live in one of the wealthiest countries, yet so many are struggling.
It's ironic, isn't it? Very much so. Wealth inequality is at an all-time high. The gap keeps widening.
And the middle class is shrinking.
Exactly.
It's like you're either wealthy or you're not, with little in between.
So where does that leave us?
Honestly,
I think it means we need systemic change.
Perhaps. But change takes time, and people are hurting now.
That's true.
Maybe community support can help bridge the gap in the meantime.
That's a good point. Neighbors helping neighbors, local initiatives, small ways to make a difference. Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, if enough of us speak up, we can push for the larger changes that are needed.
I hope so. In the meantime, we need to keep these conversations going. Silence won't solve anything.
Well, here's to hoping for a brighter future.
Cheers to that. You know what's been on my mind lately? The energy situation in Nigeria.
Oh yeah? What's happening over there?
Well, it's kind of wild. Nigeria is Africa's largest economy with over 200 million people, but they're struggling with constant power outages. Not just brownouts, full-scale blackouts. It's
Seriously?
A huge issue.
That's incredible. People must be relying on generators a lot then.
Exactly. Generators are everywhere, but they're not ideal. They cause air pollution, noise, and with petrol prices skyrocketing since April 2022, prices have shot up by 48.5%. It's draining family finances.
Wow. So it's not just inconvenient, it's a massive economic burden too.
Yeah, absolutely. Businesses are struggling and rural areas are falling even further behind. But here's the thing. Amidst all this, Nigerians are innovating, transforming energy access.
That's amazing. What kind of innovations are we talking about?
Well, one major issue is the inefficiency of the power grid. In Nigeria, 50% of electricity generated is unaccounted for. That's
Half of it?
enormous.
How does that even happen?
It's due to a lack of visibility into grid operations. Utilities know what's entering the grid and what's reaching consumers, but everything in between is like a black box.
I
So when
see.
something goes wrong, they don't know where to start.
That must make fixing issues really challenging.
Exactly. So companies like Beacon Power Services, led by CEO Bim Adisa, are stepping in. They've mapped every customer, building, transformer, and power line, creating a detailed grid topology.
That's impressive. So they've basically made the invisible visible.
Yeah, and with that, they've reduced grid losses in Lagos by 20 to 30%. Isn't that incredible?
It really is. That's a significant improvement. How does that help the overall situation?
Well, by improving visibility, utilities can identify where inefficiencies are happening, address issues quicker, cut down on wasted energy, and increase revenue. Then they can reinvest in infrastructure, breaking the cycle of unreliability.
Right? So it's like turning on the lights in a dark room. You can finally see what's going on.
Exactly. And beyond fixing the grid, there's a big shift toward decentralized solutions, especially solar energy. With the removal of Nigeria's 50-year fuel subsidy in 2023, petrol prices quadrupled, making solar much more attractive.
Makes sense. Yeah, I can imagine people are looking for alternatives now.
Definitely. Companies like Sunfi, co-founded by Rotimi Thomas, are making solar accessible. They connect consumers with trusted solar providers and offer payment plans like lease-to-own options.
That's really helpful. But do people find solar affordable? I mean, the upfront costs can be high.
That's true, but with payment plans and rising fuel costs, solar is becoming more economically viable in the long run. Plus, people are realizing the benefits: lower fuel costs, less noise, cleaner energy.
Right. It seems like a win-win situation.
Yeah, and it's not just households. Small and medium-sized businesses are getting on board too. Earthbond, led by CEO Chalu Anino, is providing affordable solar solutions to SMEs.
Interesting. So they're supporting the backbone of the economy.
Exactly, and they're looking beyond just energy. They're offering services like flood insurance and supply chain resilience. It's about building long-term resilience for these businesses.
That's forward thinking. But do you really think this shift to solar can transform Nigeria's energy landscape? There are still significant barriers like affordability and infrastructure, right?
That's a fair point. It's not going to be an overnight change, but with the right investments, policy support, and continued innovation, I think it's definitely possible.
I guess time will tell. Everyone deserves access to reliable, clean energy.
Absolutely. And the environmental benefits are significant too, reducing carbon emissions and pollution from generators. It's a critical step towards sustainability.
Definitely. It sounds promising, but are there any other challenges we should be aware of?
Well, infrastructure development takes time and investment. Regulatory hurdles can slow progress, and ensuring these solutions are accessible to all segments of the population is a challenge.
Right. So there's still work to be done, but the progress is encouraging.
Definitely. It's inspiring to see local innovators driving change and shaping a sustainable future for Nigeria.
Maybe other countries can learn from this approach.
Yeah, it's like a blueprint for transforming energy access in developing economies.
I just hope the momentum continues and more people get on board.
Me too. It's like the dawn of a new era for Nigeria's energy sector.
Absolutely. Well, this has been really insightful. Thanks for sharing all this.
No problem. It's a topic I'm really passionate about.